Dear Cheri, help! My homemade edibles never get me high. What am I doing wrong? Wow, okay, well, first off, calm down. You may or may not be doing anything wrong, per se. Before I get to that longer answer, though, I just want to remind everybody, hit that YouTube subscribe button and notification bell, because I try to upload new videos every Wednesday, and hit that like button if you get value out of these videos, too. Okay, we hear a lot of media hype about and fear-mongering about people overdosing on marijuana edibles all the time. But I have to say, if my emails are to be believed, really most people are having the opposite problem, and they're not feeling a lot from their edibles. Sometimes this is due to the mandatory dosage limit imposed by states on commercially available edibles. And to be sure, those 10 milligram per serving edibles limits are going to be plenty enough for a lot of people. But for many, many others, they're not going to feel a thing from that. And that's the thing you have to know about, is that people's dosing needs are different, and not just a little bit different, drastically different. So the first thing I want you to do is check out the comments below, because there's going to be a link to my free dosing class or my $5 dosage calculators that do all the math for you. But either way, those come with courses that will help you, or classes that will help you determine what your personal best edibles need is. That way you can cook towards that. So that's why I'm saying you didn't necessarily do anything wrong if you followed an internet recipe, for instance, or a cookbook recipe, and you didn't get the results you needed, because your needs may be different than what that recipe suggested. And that's why every recipe needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Use the dosage calculators, or calculate your dosage according to what you need. And if you don't know what you need, I'm going to help you to figure that out in those courses too. That said, if you need to increase the potency of your edibles, like you've made a really strong infusion, you're still not getting what you want out of it, for whatever reason you need a stronger dose, here are some tips of various things you can do to increase potency in your edibles. Okay, 1, use more cannabis or less infusion medium. So if you can, use more cannabis to make your marijuana butter or oil, and use less of that oil so you have a stronger infusion. You can only do that to a certain degree, because you've got to be able to cover your cannabis with your oil or butter so that it can infuse. But if you're able to, that's one thing you can do. 2, be sure that you properly decarboxylate your cannabis. This can help you to increase your potency. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about decarboxylation, see the comments below. There will be a link to my website that will explain it all. Okay, another thing you can do is to use a higher percentage THC cannabis. So in other words, if you're making your infusion with a 10% THC cannabis and you up that to a 20% THC cannabis, you're going to have twice the potency. So that's a really quick, easy thing you can do. If possible, use more infusion in your recipe is another thing you can do. Now, not all recipes you're not going to be able to do that with, but depending on what you're making, you might be able to use a little more oil, a little more butter in your recipe, and increase the potency that way. One of my favorite things to do if I really want to make a strong edible is to augment it with a concentrate. So I'll make an infused butter or oil, but then I'll add some sort of concentrate to that, a decarbed concentrate, such as shatter, wax, keef, hash, FICO, distillate, or even a tincture are all ways that you can add more potency to your already made cannabis infusion. And last but not least, depending on what you're cooking, you can layer infused ingredients. So we can infuse a lot of different things: butter, oil, cream, honey, sugar. So if you're making a recipe that uses multiple ingredients like that, you can infuse them all and mix it together and get more potency in your final recipe. So these are some easy ways to increase the potency in your edibles. If you find you need more, I hope this helps. If you ever eat too much, there'll be a link below in the comments also to an article that tells you what to do if you ever get too high a dose, because you can make that come down very quickly too. See you next time. Eat your weed.